today? We can work on that. We'll need a little bit more energy later. I'll check back. On behalf of the Minnesota Wild and Hiway Credit Union, welcome to the St. Paul River Center and the Beyond the Yellow Ribbon Company 2021 Fall Conference. My name's Audra Martin. I am the studio host for the Minnesota Wild pre- and post-game shows on Bally Sports North, and it's a pleasure to be with all of you here this afternoon. The Wild and Hiway Credit Union are proud to co-host today's conference. We welcome those of you who are joining us in person here on the Minnesota Wild campus in St. Paul, and those of you at home joining us via the live feed. For those of you who are here in person, just a couple things to take care of. We ask kindly that you keep your masks on at all times unless you are eating or drinking or presenting. And the bathroom, another really important piece of information, is down the hall. When you leave this room, take 2 rights, and like I said, it's down the hall. But to the task at hand, the objectives of today's Yellow Ribbon Conference are to build relationships with other Yellow Ribbon companies and military support employment partners, to share best practices, and to provide education on military support and employment resources. The Minnesota Department of Military Affairs would like to congratulate the following companies who were officially declared Yellow Ribbon companies since we last met in 2019. They are Donaldson Company, Grand Casino Hinckley Mille Lacs, and the Travelers Company. So please join me in congratulating these 3 in officially becoming a Yellow Ribbon Company. To kick things off this afternoon, I would like to invite representatives from our co-hosts, the Minnesota Wild and Hiway Credit Union, to officially welcome you to the Fall Conference. First, please help me welcoming the president of the Minnesota Wild, Matt Majka.
Thank you, Audra. It's great to see you because it's hockey season, so that means we're going to see a lot more of you now, which is very good. Thanks to all of you for being here. It's great to see the turnout and the commitment that you all make as companies, and I know we have folks joining us remotely as well. Sounds like actually quite a number are joining remotely as well, so welcome to all of you who are not in the room also. It is our pride and pleasure to be here along with Dave Boden, our good friend from Hiway Credit Union. Dave is a longtime supporter of the Minnesota Wild, a partner of ours, and we have a long-standing relationship which we're very appreciative of, and also Dave's support of this afternoon and today. And congratulations to the newer members that we just heard Audra list off. That's fantastic. Congratulations to all of you who've been here forever alongside as a Yellow Ribbon company. And I am told that we were the 53rd Yellow Ribbon Company back when I think it was around 2017 that we were granted that status, and that was a proud moment for us. We have, in my opinion, been a longtime supporter of the military, have prioritized that in our brand and our community support, and I know that our owner, Craig Leopold, the military is near and dear to him, and he has, from the top, encouraged us and made sure that we would honor the military prior to our status as the Yellow Ribbon Company, and obviously since then as well. So it really, for us, as with many companies, it starts at the top with Craig, and this is something very important to him. The other thing I'd say is that it is really important to this cause, the military, is really important to our players as well, and that we have different players every year. We evolve a little bit as a team, but this is one constant, that our players are really proud of our support as an organization of the military, and they are 100% behind that. In fact, I like to tell this story. We live or we work in an interesting industry where our players are thought of as heroes, right? They are, to people of all ages, actually. And while I know that's true, and I think the players are not entirely comfortable with that, because hockey players tend to be fairly modest folks. And I think it's particularly true that they're not comfortable with that when they stand alongside a military member and are called a hero. That is, the Wild player called a hero. I think they blush a little bit, actually, in comparison to what our military does day in, day out for us as a country. I think that they think of the military as heroes and not so much themselves at all. So with that, I think it gives a little depth to this hero status in our society. And again, our players, I think, are blushing when they're called heroes in front of a military member. So that is, I think, I wanted to talk about the game tonight because I think a number of you are invited. I think everybody's invited to the game. I hope that's the case because I just said so. But we got space. So game tonight, 7 o'clock. We're playing the Blues. We're actually playing the Blues on New Year's Day at the Winter Classic as also this year, which we're pretty excited about out at Target Field, our good friends of the Twins. That reminds me to also honor and mention the Twins and the Vikings as other sports teams in town that are beyond the Yellow Ribbon companies. We're proud to be alongside them. I have a ton of respect for those two organizations, and we are very friendly with both of them and really excited about our day at Target Field coming up on January 1st this year against the Blues. But tonight we have the Blues. It's our second home preseason game. It's our fourth overall preseason game. We just have 3 left in our preseason, and we start for real October 14th, and then we start at home because we open on the road. We start at home on the 19th of October against Winnipeg, which is a Tuesday night, and we're excited about that, and we're excited to have, for the first time in a long time, a full house. It has. I won't go on about our trials and tribulations because we've all experienced real personal and professional hardships throughout COVID, and I mean that very seriously, but our industry has absolutely been adversely affected, and so to get to Tuesday, October 19th with a full house at XL Energy Center, it will have been a long time for us, and we miss our fans, and so we're excited to be hosting larger crowds. Tonight, there'll probably be about, I don't know, around 10,000 people in the building tonight. The Blues are playing kind of a younger lineup tonight, as are we, because we're in the middle of camp, and some of these young players are vying for roster spots, and we have an interesting young core who is trying hard to win a spot as well. So you'll see a somewhat younger Wild lineup tonight than you would at a normal game, and the Blues as well are bringing along a little bit of a younger lineup. But these guys, they compete really hard when they get a chance to play in an NHL game of any kind, whether it's preseason or regular season. So I think you'll see a very competitive game with people laying it on the line to try to win a roster spot tonight. We're excited about our team, of course. You'd expect me to say that, but we had a great season last year and a shortened season, made the playoffs, had a great 7-game series with Las Vegas, lost in Game 7, high drama. Took a very good team to 7 games. We expect to move past that this year, to make the playoffs, to start winning some playoff rounds. Our fans deserve that. We really like the team that we are assembling. Bill Guerin, our general manager, we're very excited about the team that he is transforming us into, and we're changing on the fly a bit right now. We're getting younger. We think we're getting better, and there's some evidence of that. For those of you who follow us closely, Kirill Kaprizov won the Rookie of the Year award last year, set a standard that will be difficult for him to live up to, but I think he's up for the challenge, and I think he can be even better. But he had a remarkable rookie season as the NHL Rookie of the Year, and we have other players who stepped up as well, younger players who are starting to be leaders on our roster. So lots of optimism, of course, in preseason, but I think it's legitimate, and we're excited to start the season. Glad you'll be with us tonight. So I think that's probably enough from me. Audra, are you going to introduce? Yep, very good. I'll just step aside then. Thank you very much for being here today.
This is why I keep my pen handy, because I can go ahead and cross off the announcement about but you are correct. Everybody who is here is invited to the game, so we hope you take advantage of some great hockey and obviously a great networking opportunity as well. So next, it's always an honor to introduce you to our next speaker, President and CEO of Hiway Credit Union, Dave Boden.
Thank you, Audra. And thanks to everybody for being here today. I know the truth is, Hiway's humble story may not be quite as interesting to everybody as Minnesota Wild and the Kirill Kaprizov and what's happening with the season, but as we are as well. I have just recently been in contract negotiations with Matt and the team at the Wild, and we discussed the Kaprizov situation at some length. And I just want to continue with my long-standing offer. I watch most every game, and when you and Dean and the team needs me to come in to give you tips, advice, guidance from what I've seen, again, I've been waiting for that call for 7 years. I haven't heard it quite yet, but all right, you heard it here. He said that. No, I just, seriously though, for the event today, I'll tell you just briefly about Hiway. Hiway Credit Union has been a company here in St. Paul, a financial institution here in St. Paul since 1931, so we're in our 90th year. And we've grown over the years to where we are a good mid-sized local financial institution. We're a pillar of the community. We serve over 80,000 members here in the Twin Cities and across the state. And we have about $1.6 billion in assets. And I'm not telling you the statistics for anything other than we're a small company compared to some of the organizations that are here. And when we talk about our best practices, we'll talk about that a little bit. But one thing we do have in common with everybody here and with the Minnesota Wild as partners is a deep concern for our communities and a very proactive approach to outreach in our communities, and that extends to the military community, service members, service families, and veterans. It's very important for us as well, and I know that's what we share with everybody here. So I would like to say on behalf of the Wild as co-host, thanks to everybody here for all you guys do every day for the military community here in Minnesota. We'll talk about best practices in a few minutes. One thing I would mention is Hiway became a yellow ribbon company in 2013. I think we were the 28th organization. Again, we might be small, but a part of what we'll talk about is how we try to magnify or amplify our reach within the community and within the military community. So again, on behalf of everybody, thank you so much. It's an honor to be able to co-host. We are thrilled to do it. We'd certainly encourage anybody here in subsequent years or times to host this event. It's really been an honor for us to be involved. So thank you.
All right, before we move on to our next speaker, Governor Tim Walz, this is how you know I'm in hockey season. Every time I say Tim Walz, I want to say Wes Walz. So, but Governor Tim Walz wanted to share a letter with you guys. Like I said, he was unable to be here today, so I wanted to go ahead and read that to all of you. He says, to the attendees of the Beyond the Yellow Ribbon Company Conference, thank you for the invitation to be with you today. While I'm unable to join you in person, I would like to extend my gratitude to all 82 Beyond the Yellow Ribbon companies and community partners here today for their commitment to supporting active service members, veterans, and their families. We know that our service members face incredible challenges as they serve our country, and our fight to end the tragic epidemic of veteran suicide is far from over. We must work together to provide veterans with immediate access to quality, culturally competent resources to make their transitions as comfortable as possible. You have made great strides in easing their transition by connecting our veterans with employment, developing thoughtful measures, and providing support within your companies. The proactive approach has made a difference in the lives of thousands of military members and their families. These conferences are vital in building relationships, sharing best practices, and providing education and resources on military support. Minnesota has always shown that we can, and we will, lead the way in supporting our service members, veterans, and their families. I am honored to recognize your dedication to this important work. Sincerely, Tim Walz. So thank you, Governor. Those great words. As I stated earlier, one of the objectives of today's conference is to share best practices. We are pleased to hear best practices this afternoon from 3 yellow ribbon companies, including the Minnesota Wild, Hiway Credit Union, and Boston Scientific. First, please welcome Wayne Petersen, Director of Community Relations and Hockey Partnerships for the Minnesota Wild.
Good afternoon, everybody. And on behalf of the Wild, again, welcome to St. Paul and the St. Paul River Center. We're very happy to be here, and we're very happy to be co-hosting today's event with the Hiway Credit Union. It's hard to believe that the day has finally arrived. I think we expressed our interest to Annette probably 4 years ago at least to host the Fall Yellow Ribbon Conference. And we were set to host the Fall Conference last year, but we know why it was canceled. And we really wanted to host a fall conference so we could invite all of you who are here in person to a hockey game. And so for just a few notes regarding tonight's game, all of you who are attending tonight will have an assigned seat in one of 8 suites. And we're utilizing 8 of the event suites, 2 in each corner of the arena. feel free, please, to move from suite to suite as you network with other people from other yellow ribbon companies. You have an assigned seat in an assigned suite, but please, again, we'll be in the 80 event suites throughout the arena. Move from suite to suite and meet as many people and share other ideas as best you can. One other note, I know that all of you received a nice bag when you came in today. Unfortunately, bags are not allowed in the arena in today's world. So if you are coming to the game, you'll need to take the bag to your car and then come back. And I hope that there are no more ticket issues. If there are, let me know. I'll do the best. I am not in ticketing. I'm not in IT, but I will do my best to get you and your guest in the door. And speaking of IT, I actually had a problem this morning when I came into work today. I was having issues with my computer, so I called the help desk, and within a minute, I had a gentleman from IT who happened to be a Marine veteran help me with my really simple issue. I felt pretty silly, but he was awesome. That's another example how those guys help out in a moment's notice. So I'm here today to share with you the Minnesota Wild's best practices. We have two missions here at the Minnesota Wild. The first is to win the Stanley Cup, and we hope that comes soon. The second, though, is to create a greater state of hockey. And in my position with the Wild, I'm very fortunate and lucky that I get to do that on a daily basis. And I can't think of a better way to create a greater state of hockey than to honor and support our military veterans and their families. Compared to other yellow ribbon companies, our organization is pretty small. All in, Minnesota Wild, St. Paul River Center, XL Energy Center, we're about 250 full-time employees. But we have a huge platform and hundreds of thousands of fans and followers. So everything we do to support the military is amplified through our various channels. So I'm going to share with you a few of our best practices. One of my favorite nights of the year is when we celebrate Military Appreciation Night. We haven't celebrated since 2019. But some of the highlights from 2019 included Brigadier General John Safstrom making the Let's Play Hockey announcement. We had a joint color guard on the ice. During the second intermission, we paid tribute to 4 World War II veterans, and which was a thrill and an honor. And they were Richard and Doris Edge, a married couple. Both served during World War II. Really quickly, and Staff Sergeant Richard Edge from the U.S. Army. He served in the European theater as a mortarman and forward observer, and as a veteran of the Battle of the Bulge, and was a Purple Heart recipient. And his wife, Lieutenant Doris Edge, served in support of World War II from Pensacola, Florida, as a Navy wave assisting in flight simulations training pilots. We also honored Fremont Russ. He's with the 97th ID Patton's 3rd Army, and Shirley Doughton Wesley with the Navy C-47 air crew. That was a thrill to pay tribute to those veterans. And in previous years, we paid tribute to many Vietnam veterans. And as you all know, the Vietnam veterans didn't get the hero's welcome that they deserved, and like the veterans do today. So it was an honor to see them honored during our game on the ice. And I was down in the Zamboni Tunnel as they came off the ice after our tribute, and I saw grown men crying. And it brought shivers down my body. It was such a big thrill to be a part of that. Other highlights included, we had a youth hockey starting lineup, which included 6 kids. All were children of military veterans. We invited a Gold Star family to sit in the Bally Sports North Elite Suites seats between the benches. The Minnesota Warriors were our disabled hockey players were the recipients of the Split the Pot raffle. United Heroes League was given a $1,000 grant to sell game programs that night, and the list goes on and on. As you can see, we have Military Appreciation Night scheduled again for this year on December 14th against the Carolina Hurricanes. Plans are still underway for that night, but we do have a special ticket package that all of you should receive some information in the bag that you received. And the package includes a game ticket, a special edition wild hat, and for every ticket that is purchased, a $5 donation will be made to the St. Paul Yellow Ribbon Network. One of the new traditions we started during Military Appreciation Night back in 2018 was we did a surprise trip for a veteran. And in 2018, John Albert, who was a Purple Heart recipient, we surprised him at the game that night. His wife was in on it. They went to Chicago for the Wild Blackhawks game. She had their bags packed. He didn't know about this. He found out during live TV that he was going to Chicago. And they got on the team charter that night and flew to Chicago and were wined and dined and had a great time. And then 2019, we surprised Command Sergeant Major Douglas Wortham with a trip to Buffalo. Again, he had no idea that he was going to be gifted this great opportunity. He's a lifelong Wild fan, and he came to the game that night because he had just retired and under the premise that he was going to be interviewed by Kevin Gord during an intermission break. During the break, Mike Mondano came on screen and presented him with the jersey, and Kevin Gord said, "Do you have plans on this weekend? Do you want to join us in Buffalo?" So he was thrilled. And here's a video I'm going to play for you, which is a recap of his trip.
Command Sergeant Major Wortham, thank you so much for joining us. So good to have you here.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to be with you guys tonight. This is awesome. Thank you. We've enjoyed the Minnesota Wild for many, many years. And to have the Minnesota Wild recognize the men and women in uniform that are doing it every day that have done it in the past is just an unbelievable thing. And we really appreciate that because, quite honestly, we don't say thank you enough.
Couldn't agree more.
Amen. Amen.
We actually had a special message from a member of the Minnesota Wild. Check this out.
You're going to like this.
On behalf of the Wild organization, I would like to thank you for your 31 years of service with the Minnesota National Guard. In appreciation of your service to our country, we would like you and your wife, Lori, to fly with us on our team charter for our game in Buffalo and watch us take on the Sabres at the KeyBank Center. Lori has already approved the trip, so we'll see you on the plane.
Are you free? Are you available? The wife already approved it.
Let me check my schedule. Yes, we're free.
You know, walking in the rink, really didn't know what to expect, and it was a fantastic experience, of course. Everybody's just been great. It's just, we've been welcomed and really, you know, a part of the team, so to speak.
The team is great, the players are amazing. Respect the heck out of them, that's for sure.
Hey, when they pull together, they're going to be unstoppable, and I think tonight's going to be a start of a great run. It's a great game. Good way to come out of the gates right away to to get that lead, and a lot of big smiles. It was great to see that type of an atmosphere with the players after the game. Real happy about the victory. The Wild were just gracious hosts for us. Everybody was very open-armed and accepting us, and just let us be a part of the team, and it was better than we could have imagined.
So that was a lot of fun. And we already got permission from our new coach, Petersen, to do this again. Unfortunately, due to COVID protocols, can't do it this year. But we're excited to bring this surprise trip and honor a deserving veteran with a trip during the 2022-2023 season. So that's been a lot of fun. We also, on a nightly basis, honor our guardian of the game, and we are proud to honor a military member, active or retired, before every home game on the ice, adjacent to John DeCosmaker, who's our national anthem singer and also a veteran. So here's another example of how we pay tribute to a military veteran.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we honor America, please welcome retired military pharmacy mate first class, Charles Elias. Charles enlisted in the Navy in 1942. At the age of 17, and fought in the Battle of Iwo Jima during World War II, where he was wounded in combat and received a Purple Heart. Though wounded, he was on the beach to witness the raising of the American flag at Mount Suribachi. He relocated to Minnesota following the war and was inducted in the Minnesota Coaches Hall of Fame for his time as the head football coach at Minneapolis Central. He's here representing all the great men and women of the armed forces who so bravely serve our country.
So we do that every night at a home game in partnership with the National Guard. They help select our guardian of the game, and it's truly one of the highlights of the night, especially when you get to honor a World War II and Purple Heart recipient. We are also proud supporters of the United Heroes League. For those of you who don't know about the United Heroes League, they provide sports equipment, offer sports camps, subsidize association fees, and distribute sporting event tickets and special experiences to military children. And as Matt said earlier, our staff and our players are very supportive of the military, and especially the United Heroes League. So our players and our staff support the UHL via fundraising events, coaching, and both monetary and in-kind donations. And this is their headquarters are down in Hastings, Minnesota. And during COVID, they were building a new outdoor rink. And these are some pictures. That's Wes Walls, not Tim Walls. In one picture there, we had a crew of Wild staff and former players go down and help them build their outdoor rink. Another program we have is in partnership with the NHL, the NHL Officials Association, and the Minnesota Military Family Assistance Center. Once per month, the family of an active duty or deployed service member is invited to a Minnesota Wild game, and they get a pregame meet and greet with NHL game officials. And the children, in addition to receiving tickets to the game, also receive gift bags from the Minnesota Wild, the NHL, and the NHL Official Association. And I figure it's a great way to, put a smile on the faces of the kids when their mom or dad is deployed. So we're happy to do that as well. Another event that we host is Hiring Our Heroes, and maybe many of you have been a part of that. We last held this again in 2020, in February 2020, right before the pandemic hit. And we have about 75 employers come in, and we invite 250 veteran job seekers to come in and meet with prospective employers. And the workshops include resume writing and interviewing skills. And all veterans who attended Hiring Our Heroes event were invited to the game that night. And our goal is, again, this is something that we're unable to do this year, but we've talked to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and we hope to bring that back in the fall of 2022. And the last program I want to share with you is our Adopt a Dog program. We do this in partnership with PetSmart, Coco's Heart, and Soldier 6. The last 3 years, the Wild have adopted a rescue dog from Coco's Heart. We foster the dog, we train the dog for a year, and then with the help of Soldier 6, we donate the dog to a veteran with PTSD. We also produce a Minnesota Wild Canine calendar, and these are two of our last. This one has Jared Spurgeon, and this one features Matt Dumba, and Matt is featured on the cover with Breezer. Breezer is on the right there. He was our first ever team dog, and there's a picture of Breezer with the military family that adopted him. The other dog is Hobie. He was our second team dog, and we, a veteran from the St. Cloud area, adopted Hobie. And our third team dog, who I'd like to introduce to you now, his name, there he is Sully. How about a welcome for Sully? So Sully will be coming to the office. We always have a Minnesota Wild staff member foster the dog. Our president, Matt Majka, he and his wife fostered Breezer, and then he said he would never do it again, just because it was so hard to say goodbye. Jeff Pellegrim, our CFO, fostered Hobie, and he said the same thing. And Leah Pitzenberger, who you will hear from in a bit, who's our VP of Human Resources, is currently fostering Sully. So Sully actually has a cube in the Minnesota Wild offices. Sully will be coming in a few days a week. Our staff will be responsible for making sure Sully gets outside when he needs to get outside, if you know what I mean. And Sully will also be coming to every home game so fans get a chance to take a picture. And our job is to socialize Sully. Obviously, when you go into a Wild game and you got 18,000 fans, you're going to get socialized in a hurry. But we're real proud of this program. It's been a win-win-win because, with program sales, proceeds benefit Soldier 6. It's great for the staff to have a dog in the office from time to time, and it's great to give a deserving veteran a dog that can become a battle buddy. So those are just a few of the programs that we are happy to highlight. And again, looking forward to seeing many of you at the game tonight. Hopefully we'll put on a good show for you. And again, feel free to roam from suite to suite and do as much networking as possible. So again, thank you for being here and look forward to seeing you tonight.
If I knew there was going to be a dog here, I would have gotten here an hour early just so I could hang out. I'll come say hi. Wayne, I wanted to say the Military Appreciation Night is one of my favorite nights. You guys do a fantastic job. Anytime you can be at a hockey game, it's a great event. But when you go to Military Appreciation Night, it really puts things in perspective, and it's very humbling. So if you guys have the chance to go, it really is a really special night. So thank you guys for doing that, Wayne. I know many people appreciate it. Up next, please welcome back to the stage Dave Boden, President and CEO of Hiway Credit Union, and Mortgage Servicing Manager Andrew Deans. Gentlemen.
All right, thank you. Thanks again, Audra. I knew it would be tough to follow Wayne, but you didn't tell me you were bringing a dog out here. That is rough, and I'm going to take 30 seconds for an aside story, which you'll hear about in a minute. But with the St. Paul Beyond the Yellow Ribbon organization, we're responsible for meeting the needs of soldiers, veterans, families, and there are all kinds of needs we get. And it's snow shoveling and mowing the lawn and fixing the roof and car repairs and all those kind of things. So we send out the note, and we get people that respond back, and it always works great. But sometimes I gotta mention it 2 or 3 or 4 times, we need somebody for this or this. We had a request for a new dog for a family of a veteran, and I sent that one out, and literally within like a minute, I was flooded with requests. So dogs are the secret to everything. I don't know how we're gonna top a dog, but we are happy to be here and talk a little bit about some of Hiway's best practices. I know to a great extent here I'll be preaching to the choir. You guys have lots and lots of things and that we can learn as much from all you guys or more than you'll learn from us, but I do want to share a couple things that I think we do fairly well, and I've got some special guests to help do that. All right, so you've seen the presenters. I won't tell you about Hiway in the interest of time. Again, we're located here in the city of St. Paul. Our headquarters are in St. Paul, but we have members all over the state. But we serve primarily folks in the metro and especially here in St. Paul. And we were proclaimed on July 25th of 2013. So we've been around for a number of years doing this. And we talked about this earlier, so I'm going to skip over this and just kind of move on. So to talk about the best practices, I always challenge, as I mentioned a little bit before, and we share this with the Wild to a certain extent, is that we're a relatively small organization, and especially in terms of our employee base. And of course, we don't have anything like the sports reach that the Minnesota Wild have, but we have 220 employees. We probably had 170 or 150 at the time we were proclaimed. And so from early on, our challenge was how do we really do more than what we can just do for our employees? You know, one of the fundamentals of Beyond the Yellow Ribbon programs for companies, as everybody knows, is hiring veterans and making opportunities for veterans and doing the things that you need to do to support the active duty or the Guard or Reserve members that you have on your staff. And so, of course, we need to do all of those things. But we also wanted to know how could we do more, and that's sort of the basis of our discussion today. So we'll talk about three kind of best practice areas today. The first of the three is what we call integrating the Beyond the Yellow Ribbon principles into the entire organization, engaging associates, management team, and we'll talk about our board here in just a second. But it's fundamental. We think one of the best practice tips we would have is the Beyond the Yellow Ribbon program really has to be pervasive through the organization at all times. The support for military families, however your organization does that. In the Wild's case, you saw a lot of their events and the things that they can do. For us as a financial institution, that can involve lots of things around financial education and literacy and assistance for veterans and financial difficulties and those kind of things. So that has to be part and parcel of what people do all the time. It can't just be a committee that goes off and does something once in a while. It's got to be integrated into the whole operations and the whole philosophy and mindset of an organization. You really have to engage your associates. And I have a board question as well. In fact, for our organization, it's not just us at the management level putting this out. It's not just our committee, but it's our board of directors. And we have a board member here who has a pretty quick but good story about how we try to do this at Hiway. Patrick McGinnis was our just past chair of the board of directors. He's also a member of the Army Reserve, and he's been active and deployed a number of times, and he's seen how we try to work both from a support standpoint from the management side and the board side, as well as being on the other end of it as a part of our team who's been deployed, and how can he continue to contribute to the organization. So Patrick, you want to come up and just give us just a quick story?
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, my name is Patrick McGinnis. I'm a reservist. I'm currently attached to a unit in Virginia, but I reside here in St. Paul. And as Dave said, you know, being a Yellow Ribbon company is more than just, you know, putting out a team of public service or you know, forward-facing people to go do volunteer work. It is integrated throughout the entire organization. And it was great. I've been supported by Hiway through 2 mobilizations and 1 deployment. The level of support Hiway provided was great. As a director on the board, we were doing virtual and remote meetings well before COVID. I have called in for meetings from a lot of different places in the world and a lot of weird times of the day. And Hiway was there to support me, setting up video conferencing on their end so I could still participate while mobilized or deployed to the extent I was available. So it is not just a top-down approach, it is a throughout the organization approach. And I would encourage any company to involve their board of directors on some level. Not that you have to have a veteran on your board, but that the board understands the military community and what service members go through with mobilizations and deployments. So I'll turn it back to Dave, but I'll be available for questions at any point, either today or tonight at the game.
Thanks, Patrick. So yeah, we would hear and we'd have to ask, carefully, okay, are you literally having to duck while you are participating in our board meeting, or are you in danger? Is this a good idea? I don't know how many people go back to, I probably shouldn't go back this far, but the Al Franken days on Saturday Night Live when he had the mobile unit and he was out talking to him. I pictured Patrick with his mobile unit out, kind of keeping his head down and communicating with us. But it's pretty cool to have that level of involvement throughout the organization. It's the kind of stuff you do to keep everybody engaged. So that's our first kind of best practice. Second is, and we've started to talk about this with the Wild, is reach beyond the organization. So we can impact a couple hundred people or their families within our company, but we can impact a whole lot more people if we reach outside, and that tends to be through involvement and partnerships with outside organizations, and Andy will tell you about those, but like United Heroes League and like with the Minnesota Wild and Appreciation Night and all kinds of things. So reach outside the walls of the organization is a great way to get a lot of people engaged and a lot of opportunities to extend your reach. And the last best practice we'll talk about today is extending your impact through community BYR involvement. And this we will also give you a few tips on, but Hiway and the St. Paul Beyond the Yellow Ribbon organization are extremely tightly integrated. And Andy will talk a little bit about that. But again, it's a way to amplify what we can do as a small company and impact lots and lots of veterans, lots and lots of families and organizations by partnering with the community. And there's a lot of companies here in this room that are in communities, and particularly here in St. Paul, just because that's the example I know about. Ecolab is here, and I'm sure Travelers and Securian and Regions and others that are part of the St. Paul Beyond the Yellow Ribbon Network, along with Hiway. And slowly, we're getting there. We keep working this. We're integrating and working together more and more. And when you can pull the combined resources of that many organizations and people together, whether it's volunteering, financial donations for one cause or another, sending care packages, all those things that you can do that can really be amplified through the use of tight integration with a community network, not just the company. So that's kind of our three lessons. And Andy will tell you a little bit more about that. We've got a number of pictures and things we can show you that. So I'd like to bring up Andy Deans. Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped the gun. I don't have this in front of me. I should have said this. This is just quickly the things that Hiway does in terms of the integration with St. Paul Beyond the Yellow Ribbon. So we provide leadership. Andy and I are the co-chairs of the organization. We provide administrative services. We do the accounting for the 501c3. We handle checks in and out. We do all those types of things. We handle the marketing, the development of the website, a variety of those things. And so Hiway's Beyond the Yellow Ribbon reach is directly sent out across the community through this integration. So with that, we talked about how you get all these circles involved. You've got local communities. You've got the Beyond the Yellow Ribbon communities. You've got local companies. Again, it's just a picture of networking at its finest to really amplify what we can do. So with that, I'm going to introduce Andy Deans. Andy is the co-chair of the St. Paul Yellow Ribbon Network and the chair of Hiway's Yellow Ribbon Committee, and he'll tell you a little bit and show you some pictures of some of the things we're doing.
Thank you, Dave. Yes, I really want to first highlight our Hiway Yellow Ribbon. Work the remote here. Our Hiway Yellow Ribbon Committee here. It really exemplifies what Dave just talked about of having involvement throughout the whole organization. As you can see, we have members throughout the whole Hiway group, really diversified throughout Hiway and the different departments that we have. And this is all on a volunteer basis. They come, they join for their own personal reasons and become active in the group. It really provides a diverse leadership for us when we're managing our Yellow Ribbon campaigns. Excuse me, as Dave talked about, we really want to talk about how we engage our employees and associates throughout the whole organization. And one way we do that, that's kind of become a tradition for us at Hiway, is highlighting some of the the holiday weekends that we get, and a lot of times we take those for granted. We get that extra day off of work, but really putting that extra emphasis on why these holidays matter, what the real meaning was for these holidays. We send out an email from our committee to all associates, and what's been happening so far, the tradition has been is we send out that email, we get thank yous, but then throughout the whole day, we're getting these shared personal experiences from our associates talking about how their family member or a friend of theirs was impacted through service, and it really just makes the whole day impactful for us as we get into that holiday weekend, and it's been one of those traditions that we will definitely keep going forward. We also understand as a Yellow Ribbon Company, there's always the needs that have to come in, and to be able to act quickly with those needs, you need to have some funds to be able to provide gift cards for gas or whatever that repair or request might happen. So we're trying to find ways to continually raise funds to be that agile group. And one of the ways that we've done this through our partnership with the Minnesota Wild is on Minnesota Wild Home Days, we encourage our staff to wear wild home gear in our lobbies to promote our home team here, get a win for the day. With that, we ask them that they donate a $3 donation for every home game, and those funds are coming to our Yellow Ribbon Committee so we can then pass that along. Hiway is also known for cookouts in the summer. We've raised lots and lots of dollars for Gillette Children's Specialty Care here in St. Paul out of our Empire location. When we took on Fort Snelling Branch 2013 era, we thought we needed to expand our cookouts to really touch base with the VA Medical Center and all the neighborhoods right around that area. And so we did that, and we started cookouts at our Fort Snelling location with all of those proceeds, again, coming back to our Yellow Ribbon networks and in veteran resources in the community. So it just keeps coming back in. Care packages, we talk about care packages a lot. They are extremely important. It's one of the best things someone getting deployed could get, just a little piece of home coming out there. We try to, as a small organization, make an impact. So we reach out as our committee out to our associates, trying to find out if anyone has any friends or family that are deployed. And if they do have those, we try to personalize our care packages for those service members by finding out what they do like to have in their care packages. And as you can see some of these photos, we really do make an effort to personalize those care packages for those service members when they receive them. And you'll see a couple of examples for the holidays that we've done, and examples of people returning the pictures showing that they received the care packages and how appreciative they are. One of the things I want to point out in this picture is we have this little piece of paper up there that says, "Thank you for your service." We have this placard put out on every one of our associate meetings, which we have at an all-associate meeting every month. And we have this out here for all the staff to come by, write a little message every month, put those in there. And these it's just another little piece of how we personalize our care packages. So they get this, they're getting all these signatures and little messages from our associates as we go through. Some more examples of these care packages and how we personalize them. And then military support in the community. So getting outside our walls and finding ways that we can be active in the community. As Wayne mentioned, United Heroes League, they've been a great supporter of ours. We've been involved with them when they were defending the Blue Line. It's just an organization from the top down that just does an amazing job in giving back to our military families through sports. Here's a photo of United Heroes League donating some baseball equipment to Hiway, BTYR, so we could ship it off to Africa for a deployment over in Africa for those requesting some activities outside the norm there. They have a camo gala recognizing their volunteers of the year, their service members of the year. It's just truly an organization that's awesome to be part of. Another thing, getting the awareness outside of our walls and engaging our employees. We've been active with the Minnesota State Fair. Anytime that they have the Military Appreciation Day at the fair, we're always trying to be out there. It's about getting that awareness of Yellow Ribbon. You can always run across people that don't know what Yellow Ribbon is, so you can never be out there enough talking about what Yellow Ribbon is. Getting snacks donated, so 133rd and 934th are both local units here, that we've created personal relationships with their organizations and finding ways when they have needs to get some snacks provided, to offer just some, hey, here's a snack. No other reason than we were able to provide this to you through different relationships that we've built. KLM Brands was one of the donations of these 2 pallets. They gave them to us. We got these 2 giant pallets. We were amazed, and we were able to give those out. The eyes on the soldiers when they saw the pallets coming, and it was just priceless to see, like, this is all for us. And yeah, it's awesome to see that. And one of the last organizations that we sponsor, and there's many more that we have, but just some of the here highlighted ones, is the Minnesota National Guard's Youth Camp. It's one of these great organizations, very much like United Heroes League, providing an outlet for the children of the service members and giving them an experience to give that distraction during deployments or whatever may be happening at home. Awareness in the community. So Dave talked about our integration with St. Paul Beyond the Yellow Ribbon and how that has really kind of helped Hiway become a little bit more vocal rather than just inside our own walls. And so we've done that by creating different things to get that awareness out. So creating a website for St. Paul Yellow Ribbon, it doesn't seem like much, but for a nonprofit with people coming together and getting a website, it's a lot harder to do and get people involved. So we got the website up and running, and it's a really good spot for resources. And along with that is really just another avenue for people to go out there and find it and put in a needs request if they have it, rather than finding those other channels to do that. We also like to, anywhere we go, bring our little pamphlet out there that we've created to personalize for St. Paul Yellow Ribbon. This is a good resource to people to take home, put on the fridge. It has resources for Ramsey County, different types of suicide prevention hotlines, and really just who we are and what we're all about. So our numbers, contact information, just a quick reference guide for people to take away when they're meeting us out and about. Social media, we wish we had the presence of the Minnesota Wild, but we try to find ways to, again, make our, I guess, impact broader than it really is. We do that through using our personal social media channels, our company social media channels, and then the St. Paul Yellow Ribbon as well. And really taking back to the Minnesota Yellow, or Beyond the Yellow Ribbon hashtags, and trying to create that connection. You can see here, one of the biggest things that we've done for awareness is we've partnered with Lowertown Sounds, which is a summer music festival in downtown St. Paul, and it's throughout the whole summer. And Beyond the Yellow Ribbon gets to be a part of that as a benefiting factor for some of the sponsorship dollars, but also we get to be out there with an awareness campaign. We have Dave, you can see here, is introducing a Marine that they had a young soldiers coming up from San Diego. They just graduated, and they unfortunately got transferred to Minnesota in January. And so they had a request for some Minnesota appropriate winter clothing, and so we honored that request. And what was really cool about that is, we gave that request out, but then once they heard about Lowertown Sounds and being able to volunteer, that unit kept coming back to us all summer long to give back in a full circle way. It was very, very impactful to see how they wanted to provide that resource back to us. And you can see our tent and really just anything we can do to make that pop and get people to come up and ask questions about what we are doing. Fulfilling needs request. We talked about this as one of the biggest things that we do and one of the most important things. It's so random. There's so many things that come through. You never know what you're going to kind of stumble on. But really the idea is, again, finding ways to be flexible, having some resources to keep you connected, and then having some funds, like I said, to be able to buy a quick gas card or provide a hotel for someone for the night, whatever it may be. You never know what those requests are, but stacking up your resources, having people you can call, and about that networking connection, keeping that built up. You can see here, this was a recently retired National Guard member who just started school, had a computer. It died right before school started. He needed this computer. He made a request, and we were able to give him the computer, I think, the next day. So like I talked about, just being agile and fast and be able to react to those situations. You never know what you're going to see. This was during the civil unrest. There was a really fast response of, we need some snacks. We have soldiers that are deployed throughout the streets, and they really have no snacks or anything that they are enjoying versus the MREs. So we provided a quick shopping spree and went down to the unit and supplied those items. You know, hanging Christmas lights for a deployed soldier. He wanted his family to have some sort of holiday cheer going on. So he put a request out, and we were able to meet that. And more and more examples of that. Over the years, Hiway has donated thousands of hours of our staff coming in and at different opportunities to provide volunteer hours, awareness campaigns. And in the last 2 years, Hiway and St. Paul BTYR has directly raised over $35,000 of direct benefits to our military families, service members, and community organizations. So it's really been an impactful last couple of years, even through the tough times of COVID. You're finding ways to be able to keep making that impact and going forward. So as you can see, we've made some big strides outside of our small little shoes here at Hiway. We feel we're making an impact, and it really shows in what we're doing. So I'll hand it back to Dave.
All right, thanks, Andy. So we will wrap up here. We just want to wrap up to just mention again the 3 best practices. So integration within the whole organization and engagement of associates, and I will extend that out to the management team and the board of directors as well. To have it a pervasive part of your culture is what makes it really, really effective. The second best practice, reach beyond the walls of the organization. You saw a lot of examples of that directly from Hiway. And then third, it is that integration through working directly with or taking responsibility for active participation and leadership in the local BYR community networks, because that's the glue to bring everybody together. And I'll show you a last picture or two. The reason I bring these up is not to talk about awards. None of us are in this for recognition or awards at all. But how do we know that we're having an impact? We know in a few ways. One, we get to see the people that we're impacting directly through some of those requests. We get to see them, talk to them in person, and we know that. It's like Wayne was talking about when you're standing with the veterans at the national anthem or for Military Appreciation Night. You really see how important it is what you do in their faces. But second, we have been acknowledged. I would like to point out Andy Deans was the civilian volunteer, the BYR Volunteer of the Year, acknowledged by the 133rd Air Wing just this past year. So Andy does a great job, and that represents what we do. You know, Hiway and St. Paul have been recognized a number of times, and again, this isn't bragging about Hiway because everybody here is doing these things. It helps us making an impact broader than just the size of our organization. And the last one I would mention is recognition from ESGR and from the Guard. And I wanted to show you this because Patrick was up here, and you'll see one of the recognition was the 7 SEALs Award, and then the flag there on the right was a flag that was flown while you were deployed and brought back to Hiway. And I can tell you that little plaque with that flag is probably the proudest possession we have in terms of acknowledgement awards that any company can have. So we're really proud of that. So with that, that's the end of our best practice presentation. Hopefully that's useful or helpful for everybody. We'll have a lot of folks around here afterwards or later today if there's any questions or topics, and we look forward to learning from everybody else that's here just as much as hopefully we can help you guys out a little bit. So that's all I got. Thank you.
That was awesome. Thank you, gentlemen, and thank you for your service. All right, at this time, we're going to take a quick 20-minute break. How are we doing time-wise? 20 minutes? Okay, so complimentary beverages are available outside, and again, bathrooms are down the hall to your right. So we will see you back in 20 minutes, and those at home, again, will be bringing up the live feed in 20 minutes. We'll see you then. So I take bribes and all that stuff too. So I'm just kidding. Real quick, I was just speaking with Dave, and he asked me to share a story that I had shared with him in keeping with the best practices theme of the afternoon. A couple months ago, I guess I should say, pre-COVID, I was at the airport. And I was sitting there waiting for my flight, and I overheard this mom talking to her young son, who's probably 6 or 7 years old. And I could hear her saying, go ask him for his autograph, go ask him for his autograph. Well, I'm nosy, and I obviously love In Touch and Us Weekly and all those magazines. So I'm looking around like, where's the celebrity? Who's here? Who's on our flight? And so the little boy was like, okay, give me a piece of paper. And so I'm watching him like a hawk to see where he's going. And he walked up to a service member, a military member who was in his uniform, and asked him for his autograph. And I broke down in tears. I was so touched, and I could see that the officer also was really touched. And I looked over at the mom and I said, I have to tell you, that was extremely touching. And I want to thank you for what you are teaching your son. And she looked at me, she's like, it's the very least I can do. And she said, I want my son to know who the real heroes are and the real people that he should be looking up to. And it's the least I can do. And I'm again crying. And the little boy comes back and he's like, Mom, he wrote me a note. And the soldier had written, thank you for your support. You're my hero. And so the little boy was just so touched. And I thought that was really, really awesome. And I went home and told my sister, I was like, you should start doing this with her sons and my nephews. And she was touched as well. So that's kind of a thing that we like to make sure that our little ones in our family realize, what our service members do every day. So Dave just asked me to share that story because it was just something that completely had an impact. The airport isn't always the most exciting and fun place to be, but that was one visit to the airport that I will always remember. But as we continue with our best practice part of the afternoon, please welcome Greg Johnson, Senior Manufacturing Engineering Manager from Boston Scientific.
All right, well, thank you very much. That's a great story. That's a good reminder for all of us. I'm going to pull this out because being an engineer, I don't have a lot of graphs, but I do have flow charts. But no, all my speaking points are behind me. I did that before. I was watching the previous presenters. Don't push that back button. Okay, I'm going to spend the next 20 minutes talking about myself. But I would not do that to you. There's a real intent of why I'm showing this here. Certainly, I'm proud of my family. That's my wife and 3 daughters. Certainly proud of my service. Spent 20 years in the Navy, both in active duty and reserves. But really, the primary intent of showing this, I'll come back to this later in the presentation, is just a visual about how we connect with candidates when they come on our campus. It's just another way of what our key focus on our hiring process is. How do you connect work with family, with service? And so it's poster boards like this that we have around campus for different reasons or whatever, and I just thought that's a good way to introduce myself. But I am a manufacturing engineering manager. I'm a core team member of our employee resource group for veterans. I'm also an active participant in our hiring processes. So what I thought I'm hoping is that I'd share some of the unique things that we do that have really helped us through the years. Hopefully it's something that I'm sure things work well for you, but maybe there's a couple of nuggets here that'll resonate in your circumstance that you can take with you, and how do you engage. This is really primarily around those coming off of active duty and transitioning into the private sector. I think we can probably all relate to the left-hand side. I just try to highlight 4 key challenges. For us, it's who is Boston Scientific. They typically have no idea who our company is, what we do, unless they did a pre-read before we meet them at an event. Candidates typically, really difficult for them to understand and then communicate what their transferable skills as it relates to potential employment. And then on the flip side of that conversation is hiring managers. That's also a challenge in general. But really on the hiring managers, do they really understand what good entry points are for those that are transitioning? Onboarding processes can be challenging in different parts of the business and for different individuals, and also, kind of the development timeline. There is a timeline to onboard and develop and really get them into that impactful role. And then the 4th one, we've probably all experienced it. It's that cold country. If they don't know anything about us, don't know anything about Minnesota, they all know about how cold it is here. And that always is a big barrier. So that's something we proactively try to engage. And they certainly are unfamiliar with the qualities that reside here in the Twin Cities around employability for if it's multiple spouses, it's the education system, healthcare system, quality of life, cost of living, all those factors. It's a challenge to get that out to the individuals when they're making their discussion or their decision. What I'm going to highlight on the right is some of the things we do to help mitigate each of those areas. I'm going to go into a little more detail in the process and some of the other slides of how we pull some of these topics and how we engage with individuals. So who is Boston Scientific? Obviously marketing, but what we'll do is intentionally before an event, we'll try to find and reach out to people ahead of time. So it's kind of that trickling effect of early engagement, we meet them in person, and things that follow afterwards. We always try to get that marketing aspect in of who we are, what our mission is, and what do we do and how do they fit into it. Just a reminder, product demos, put in the hands. We continue to forget, or it's travel or whatever, and we got banners and pictures, but having something physical to put in your hand is such a differentiator. If it relates to, it could even be the service or a product that your businesses do, find some way to visually, to connect physically if you have some sort of product. We've used video demos to demonstrate the technologies. They're kind of short loop videos, so when it's a real mass event, at a hiring event, we'll sometimes have a video display to help try to make that connection. The third bullet there is really big, and you'll hear me reference this a few times. We intentionally engage with candidates with somebody who's transitioned recently in the last kind of 2 to 3 years is really kind of the sweet spot of experience. And it is outside of the interview process. It's intended to be have an informal conversation as what is workplace like, what's the work culture, what's the job like, what is onboarding like, what's the development. It's all the things outside of work. What's the community like, what's cold country like, how do you survive the Minnesota winters? Because we usually have somebody that's not from the area. Could be their personal situation, whether they're single or married or have kids, and we intentionally have these events to have these one-on-one discussions. COVID has brought a challenge, so we've had to do it virtually. It's still effective, but it's most effective, and I'll show you in our process how we do it, is we actually go out to dinner the night before interviews, and we spend time, and it's in a casual environment and having this, and it's intended to be somebody outside that interview process. And then, candidates' ability to understand. We'll have several one-on-one discussions, so it kind of help them start to materialize in their brain what are their strengths. They have other services that help prepare them, but now when they're talking to an employer, it helps direct them a little bit more targeted towards the type of roles that they might be good for. And I'll show you in that process of how we engage in multiple aspects there. And there it is again, it's the one-on-one informal discussion. We also will use periodically a where are they now? It's just a simple slide, it's just a bunch of names. Usually it's by area within our company. It could be production, it could be quality, it could be in program management. We have just a few different buckets, and I'll have a bunch of names. And I'll have their title in front of it. And it's just a quick, easy visual way to talk about, hey, here's how people have successfully come in and has transitioned and built a career post-military. Sometimes you can actually point on that and have it very specific to the individual we're talking about. Hey, this person here, they came from a similar background, similar entry point. Here's what they chose to do and how that works. So that's been helpful in many cases. So how do you help prepare hiring managers? This recruiting team, I cannot emphasize enough. So do not put it on the burden of your talent acquisition group. They do phenomenal work. We all depend on them, but you need to augment, support them, and create a team of. You definitely need those recruiters. They understand the business. They know they know how to guide you through it. But ensure you have veterans. So that's what, like myself, I'm one that's part of that. They help translate that language. Another key one is have hiring managers who are used to hiring veterans. They may not necessarily be veterans, but they've learned through their career the values that they bring and how to bring them into those entry point type roles. And then the other piece that's really important to this team is have hiring managers who are experienced, but they aren't experienced in hiring military veterans. And it's a huge learning curve for them, and it's I love being part of it every time we go. It never fails. Because when we have an event, we'll have kind of a pre-meeting, kind of the logistics, how it's going to work, prepare everybody for it. And we also spend talking about the value that the military candidates bring to our company. What are the typical entry points? These are those transferable skills. Here are the things that you should be looking for at the event. So it's kind of this early read for these managers that they haven't been exposed to this. Then you got the day of the event, and if you've participated in this, you know it's just total chaos the entire day. You got your pre-meeting in the morning, kind of getting everybody all last minute. And you can just see these managers for the first time getting all jazzed up. They're excited to be there. Doors open. You have a half day of interviews. It's very exhausting, you know, maybe 10 minutes per person, and it's very exhausting. And then you have lunch break. And I love lunch because this is the first chance you have an hour-and-a-half break. Hey, what'd you think? And these hiring managers, they just won't stop talking about the stories of who they met in the morning. Oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe this. I couldn't believe what this person said. They're surrounded in a room full of professionals that are extremely qualified. They're very professional. They have great kind of vibes when they're talking to you, and the effect this has on those managers for the first time is phenomenal. And then we go into the afternoon, more rigor, but it always winds up in the afternoon. It's kind of gets slow. Everybody's kind of made their rounds as a candidate. And I like using that time to talk to those same individuals. So how did the day go? And they will not stop talking about the individuals that they said. They're already sending emails out to other hiring managers. We got to get this person in. We got to do this. We got to do that. Oh my gosh, this talent is phenomenal. And they now are the advocates for these individuals. And whether they ever attend an event or not, that's another way we've been able over time to really help propagate this energy within our organization for hiring managers to pursue these candidates with these qualifications. And then the last one, the unknown, certainly marketing, and I'll kind of show you a source that we use there, but the same thing, it's about pre-engagement when we do some early reach outs, the events, and some trickling afterwards, and then there's that one-on-one again. All right, here's my flow chart that I talked about. So along the top, the intent was just if you can't read it, it's just this kind of basic, what is an interview process? Somebody applies for a job and you go through filtering and whether they get to an interview and eventually a hiring decision. For military specifically, I just highlighted some sources that we'll find them through, certainly through personal networking, job boards, career fairs. We heard about Hiring Our Heroes earlier. We're an active participant there. Service Academy Career Conference is another one we're actively involved. Directly company portal. We use Cameron Brooks a lot for recruiting agencies. There's many others out there. An Eagle Group of Minnesota, if you haven't used them or aren't familiar with them, a phenomenal local resource. They're entirely chartered to help transitions of veterans and those that are coming off of active duty. So it's not only when they first come off active duty, but for the whole career. So it's a great source to interact and help connect your company to them. I'm going to walk through the bottom flow chart, and the intent of the colors is to show here's what we do on top of just a general recruiting process. And I'll speak to each one of those. So we've got an event. What we'll try to do, especially one of these that we have resumes ahead of time, maybe it's that week right before it happens, sometimes it's only a few days. We'll get a dump of a bunch of resumes from the applicants that it's intentionally shared with companies. And we'll try to sort through those as quickly and as best we can. We'll usually look for maybe some key connectors that are typically really good in the types of entry points that we have. So for example, I'm Navy, so I always look for those submarine nuclear officers. I mean, so it's things like that. And we just do an outreach. It's kind of a shot in the dark. You miss a lot because there's a lot of people you just miss going through it. But at least it's an early attempt. It's like, hey, here I am. I'll introduce myself. I'm with Boston Scientific. And this is where I'll send out a link of Minnesota. We have a very large footprint on the state of Minnesota. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Here's some little kind of the marketing thing. Here's a little bit about our company, and we hope you come see us at the event. So we'll do some early engagement. Okay, then we've got the event. Obviously, it's always an early screen. I mean, there's some informal interviewing there, so there is a screening process. But the rest of the points that I've got there is really about the dialogue that we try to engage in. It's not all of them, but you're not interviewing them for the job, and I know you've all experienced it, but our intent is how do we engage? And so the topics that we try to engage in them is talk about the workplace culture, have the product demonstrations like we talked about, so you can engage in, if it's somebody in engineering, you can talk about, try to connect how a person like that individual can connect to product design and manufacturing. Entry points, we'll talk about, based on what their interests are, what are our typical entry points. We'll talk about personal development and careers, and what does that transition process look like. You don't get into a lot of depth. You really only spend 10 minutes, but those are kind of the key topics we try to have. And then after the event, filtering on top. That's the same thing that happens, but from an event, we got to move really quick. Who did we see? Who do we like? How does it match up with some positions? What's their availability? And then we'll get to a short list. And we spend a lot of time in the event follow-up, and this is where I provide a lot of my time, a lot of others do too, is we'll now contact each of those individuals afterwards. And one of the first questions I always ask is, what did you learn from the event? It's not, hey, what did you learn about Boston Scientific, or what resonated with you, or whatever. I want to know about their experience at a career fair, because in most cases, they're just still in discovery mode. And so it helps me understand and help guide the conversation based on, are they mature in that process? They've done a lot of assessing. They're pretty kind of dialing it in on what they're interested in. Or are they still at the very beginning is, I was overwhelmed. Well, tell me about it. What did you like that you saw there? What were some things that interest you? And try to have some of that dialogue. It's usually an hour-long conversation that I have with them. And a lot of it, again, is more informal. Some other key points that will be brought up in those calls is that if they're interested in the position and we're going to bring them in for an interview, because we've already decided in that filtering process that we want to bring them in for an interview, but we want to make sure they're still interested. We'll actually go through kind of the pre-interview preparations, pointing out things, in some cases, reminding resume. What they typically brought was a military biography. This is everything they did, and I'm going to give it to you, and then hopefully you can translate what I did into what your needs are. We'll help coach them into how do you take that and put at the top those couple of things that are really key and how it relates to the type of work that you are. It's back to that transferable skills. So we'll talk a little bit about the resume content with them. There's many acronyms out there. I use SOAR, but that's STAR. That's the situational based questions. We'll make sure they understand what that is and point them to some resources if they're not familiar with it. We'll even do more phone screening. So our talent acquisition recruiters, they'll go through and do the normal phone screen. It's good practice. It's good for them to see what are the types of things that we're interested in our company. So we'll still take them through that process. I'll also point out to them is be thinking and trying to figure out what are the hiring differentiators, which if not, can I do the job? And I'm sure most people that they're leaving active duty is, I read the job description, I think I can do that. I've done all kinds of things I didn't think I could do. I could do that. I could do that. But reminding them that the key decision is about differentiation. And so as they're asking questions, as they're trying to showcase those transferable skills, be asking questions throughout the phone screen and through the interviews, so you're continuing to fine-tune that and making sure you're able to kind of act on the fly and make sure you can point out those when you're having those interview conversations. So we'll point that out ahead of time. A key point is stay in touch with these high potentials that aren't ready, because they're going to these events early. Sometimes it's, a lot of times actually, 6 to 9 months early. Some of them are 2 years in advance. It just happened to be in the local area they were in. They want to just go kind of see what's going on. And we've had a lot of success in being able to stay with people. It takes work. You got to track them. You got to stay in touch with them. It's not just LinkedIn and hope they reach out to you. You have to kind of put it on a calendar to reach out to them again, 9 months later, whatever the case may be, to stay ahead of what it is. We'll see these same individuals come back at another conference. I've even had a case where we wanted to bring somebody in for an interview. He chose the East Coast, different industry. We stayed in touch, and sure enough, his brother comes along 2 years later. Another submarine nuclear officer, another one of these target areas. So those connections, we all know about networking and the importance of job hiring, but think of networking from that standpoint of those that aren't available for a long time. Because you also should be thinking about how can we provide that offer 6 months in advance. We do that with college recruits. We've even gone as far as 8 months out. It's hard for hiring managers to think that way and to make that decision and jump in, but as a company, think about how you can make that fit in, and I'll talk to that a little bit more, fit into kind of your organizational strategy of how to capture that talent. And the last one is, don't forget about spouses, and I say twofers. You aren't saving any money. This is not 2 for 1 from a cost standpoint. Spouse unemployment rate's even worse than active duty, and we've had several situations where we end up hiring both of them in very different roles and different types. So we had one here at Hiring Our Heroes a couple of years ago, and another one through one of our other recruiting conferences. So also keep that in mind. Ask about what their family situation is and try to help manage, because those are decisions that trying to manage 2 careers play into those final final ones. Oh, sorry. Then the experiential site visit, the big bubble. This is where kind of the magic happens. So we're all planning on coming for the interview, and kind of to the left of that is the pre-interview dinner. So we'll fly the candidates in. Usually we like to do a group between 2 and 4. 3 is kind of the sweet spot. It seems to be the most. 2, you're kind of putting a lot of effort in for just 2 people. Any more than 4, it gets complicated doing more interviews. Is we'll put them in, they'll come fly in the afternoon, take them down to the hotel, downtown, and that's where the other employee that's transitioned in the last couple of years will go out and join them for dinner. So you have an evening on the company, having a nice dinner in a casual setting. You get to sit there and be part of the local environment, the downtown environment, whether that resonates with the individual or not. You get to see something that's not work related, and you get to have that kind of conversation from a standpoint of what might life be like being here in the Twin Cities. And then on interview day, it's a full day event. So we have 2 large campus footprints, even though we have 3, but the 2 main ones are in Maple Grove and in Arden Hills. So they'll start in the northwest quadrant. They'll start at interviews at 8 o'clock in the morning. They'll have a few interviews. Then they do factory tours. Then they either drive or get a shuttle, depending on the situation. They'll come over to Arden Hills. I'll meet them at 11:30, and then we'll have lunch. And we bring our veterans employee resource group members as part of that lunch, and it's another informal discussion. So from 11:30 to 1, it's another chance for them to unwind. Hey, how did things go? Sometimes they are asking some questions about their interview. Oh, what about this? What about that? But it's also about what's the Veterans ERG group do, and what do we do about supporting employees that want to continue in the National Guard and Reserves? How do we support their families when they deploy? How do we support their careers? So over this lunch, we're engaging and talking about those processes, and then whatever else is on their mind. And then 1 o'clock, interviews start again, several rounds of it, and then tours. And then at the end of the day, I meet with them all before they leave, and it's a debrief, but it's really, how did everything go? And it is never about the interview. It is typically not about the cool technology. It is all about the workplace culture and the vibe, and they're just jazzed. As wiped out as they are from that long day, that's kind of the indication to me is it connected. And that's kind of the main point here is, do you connect with them between the workplace and their service, coming off of service, or whether they want to continue or not, and then their personal family life. And then follow-up, be quick. We put a deadline, we got a week. If based on those interviews, if we want to make an offer, we got to be able to make it by the end of the week. And we got to coordinate between sites, coordinate hiring managers, all that kind of stuff. But be prepared for multiple offers. We've had it internally where we've had multiple hiring managers who want to hire the same person. So you got to figure out ahead of time how you're going to manage that so it's not an internal competition. We've also have it where if they're coming off of like a service academy and they're in the short term, they're interviewing with other companies. So they might have multiple offers through other companies. So be prepared for that and how you're going to engage and be able to follow up with them. And I just have to emphasize that hiring managers should always be the ones to call for rejections. We all do that differently, different companies, and however that is. But in this, it's back to that personal experience. Be sure to have the hiring manager do it. And then if you have a sponsor, like for me, if I'm the day sponsor, I will also have those follow-up conversations. Because it's also a coaching opportunity. You know, whether it was a right fit or not a right fit. We'll talk about how the decision got made, and I'll give them some advice on, hey, here's some things maybe to think about. And that's it for that one. Just a quick thing, when I talked about marketing, this happens to be our kind of typical slide deck anyway, but the reason I pull these are those things that connect with them. So we'll send things out to them about ahead of time and throughout the process, but it's purpose-driven. We've heard that several times here today. That is what they're typically connected to. What is the purpose? What is the mission of your company? How do you get it to resonate with them? Global career opportunities. So what marketing do you have to help emphasize that? Emphasizing workplace culture, and then community involvement's a big one. We've heard a lot about that today. Make it MSP.org. That's the website. There's probably a ton of other ones. I've used this. I'm also open for other resources if you guys have it. It was just an example. We'll use this. I'll send those out to those early reach emails. I'll find little videos like the bottom left. I love that one because it's some guy, it's only a few minutes long, but videos connect with people. But he loves biking in the winter. He's got a fat tire bike. And if you really think of Minnesota as cold country and you watch this guy, you get all jazzed up. You're like, yeah, I want to go do that. He's all hot and sweaty, and he talks about that. And he's in the middle of winter biking through snow. So, in a beautiful, beautiful area of downtown with the Stone Arch Bridge. And then other things on this website about embracing winter activity and other resources. It's still a challenge. I just thought I'd still highlight it's not rosy, even though we feel really good about the process that we have. There's still many challenges that we have to continue to overcome. I mentioned pre-screening resumes. There's a lot that's missed. There's people that, because they don't know our company, we know we miss them at these conferences. But we also have just phenomenal candidates that still come and stop by. Sometimes just kind of reaching out as they're walking by, hey, how you doing? And interacting with them, pulling them in. Onboarding is always going to be a challenge. It's different by area, people turnover, whatever it is. Onboarding is always a challenge. So always be talking about it. Always be looking at how can you improve it and make it better. Not all veteran hires work out, and this can leave a bad experience to hiring managers. So you got to be prepared for that. For us, we're not well connected with the trade skills, the technical trade skills. We're a manufacturing site, and we have a hard time tapping into a lot of the talent that can be used for building manufacturing equipment, test systems, all the complications and software and hardware that are on the lines. One of it is there's some other much bigger industries that target that same talent. So this is an area that we continue to strive to get better at. Company growth. We're fortunate enough we're going through tremendous growth. Tremendous growth means a lot of people movement, a lot of new people in hiring manager roles. So it's this constant state of education. And the second to last, I got to tell you, I've heard it, through these Beyond the Yellow Ribbon conferences, these internship programs that the services have. We just have not been able to figure out how to tap into that. It's our own rules that we have and how to make sure that we've got fair hiring practices. We're still working it. COVID kind of put that project on the sideline, but that's a great resource if you haven't looked at it. Is candidates are available 6 to 9 months while they're still on active duty. They do an internship for free, and it helps them learn about your business. It helps them learn some skills and helps you learn them just like you would, very similar to college internships. And then our company awareness is going to continue to be a challenge. And this is why I had that slide at the beginning. These are just some more. We use these banners and postcards around our site, so when they do come, when we have employees that deploy, we have these banners around campus. Who are they? What do they do? Where do they go? A little bit about them personally. We stand it up on the day we say farewell to them, and it stays there until we welcome them back the day they walk back on campus. And so when they see that and they hear it, it's back to that connection, connecting work, family, and service. Key takeaways. Help them visualize working for your company. Make it an experiential process, not that bland flow chart that I had on the top. Find ways to connect differently because that'll also differentiate you as a company from other companies that they go through. Connect your vision, not the vision statement, but it's through conversations, it's through visuals, it's, whatever it may be. And then just Veterans ERG, we have pillars, so it's easy for us to communicate this. These are our four main pillars of our resource group. Acknowledge that transitions are a learning process. So clearly define what your successful entry points are and why. It may not be the position you need to hire for right now. That may not be the right entry point. So be thinking about your organizational strategy that if you want to capture this talent, how do you bring it into those successful entry points and be thinking about the subsequent either role or subsequent areas of responsibility. It could be in the same role. You might define it more narrowly at the beginning, but that way you can define that and engage the individual of what that transition looks like. But have that entry point that is typically successful for you and keep doing it over and over again. Present your onboarding plans. We talked about that. And then, here I said, I can't emphasize enough, it's that recruiting team. It's that mix. It just drives a lot of energy. It drives it back into the organization. We heard it before me about how do you capture that within your organization, and that is definitely one way. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Greg? Is there any questions for Greg before we move on? Oh, we got a couple. Okay.
Hi, my name is Megan Murphy. I'm with Capital One, and I work in talent acquisition. So thank you for being someone outside of talent acquisition that has made that much effort to understand it. You talked a lot about like educating your hiring managers and the people like across the table from the candidates. Can you share a little bit about like how you've done that? Is it really just getting them connected with your veteran employees that you already have, or have you guys developed like more formal training processes to kind of get, you know, that mindset shift that we sometimes need to see when we're looking at diverse talent?
So formal processes that target managers know. We do formalize it, so when we do multiple events throughout the year, that becomes a formal process in how we engage before an event, as I mentioned, bringing in new managers. So that would be the formality piece. What I'd also say is, because we've been doing this kind of similar process for quite a while, it's actually been leveraged into our other diversity, inclusion, recruiting efforts. And so they're starting to pull some of these elements. COVID kind of paused some of these things and how we do it. Some of the other informal ways we've done it is, prior to these events, we'll also send out, because some other members have created these lists of questions, kind of an FAQ. You know, one that always resonates for me is, why does the candidate always seem quiet and reserved in the interview? And the answer is, the guidance typically is, this is about an officer corps, is they are trained to bring calm to a chaotic environment. And so for them, they're going through an interview process. So they are bringing calm and reserve and a professional, thought-provoking method in it. So we have these FAQs like that we do send out to hiring managers. I think we can be a lot better at how do you propagate it, especially as I talk about the typical challenges is a lot of new managers, a lot of new growth, a lot of new areas. I think we still have some work to do there. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you. Great info. Just curious about how do you get the hiring managers to want to participate in these events? Because I like the idea. Once you get into say, make the onboarding of the hiring managers when they get to participate. How do you make the value proposition that's worth their time and effort to participate in these events specifically for veterans? What's the value proposition for veterans, or that you bring about veterans to the organization? How do you guys do that?
So one thing that we've been doing just in recent years is just the whole diversity recruiting. That is an ongoing engagement with our whole leadership team, all managers and above. And so it's about encouraging participation. I already do it because I volunteer, but simple things of getting engaged. So when you have that throughout your organization and you're continuing to talk about it, it starts triggering these opportunities when they come up. Oh, hey, I'd like to go to a hiring event. So that's kind of one way, just trying to get people conditioned differently to be thinking about volunteering for it. The other one is we have a recruiting team, not talent acquisition, but we have a person that represents operations, and he is the one that coordinates with all managers for whether it's college recruiting or whether it's one of my career conferences, the military ones that I participate in. And so it's that single point. So he'll send things out to hiring managers. So over time, you're knowing that these other events, whether it's the military recruiting or others, are constantly going on. So it's another way to keep it in front of managers. The part that I don't know about is we never struggle getting them. And this has to do with the sponsor that we've had in our military recruiting. He was talent acquisition. He reaches out to people, and there's just never a problem. Typically, it's a schedule problem, like, hey, I'm not available for whenever this is. We target those typical entry points and constantly engaging, and it's not all of them. I mean, we've got a big company, so do you, and we just target those typical entry points, and we always make sure we're having sources of managers. So when somebody goes back, they all want to know what's going on, and they become the advocate. So it makes that collection of managers much smaller who hear about the story when you're ready for the next event. So I've seen that, and that's been happening for a long time.
Can you share more about the interplay between the volunteers in the employee resource group and the formal corporate processes and funding for events, and how do those two groups meet, and what's the trade-off between who's doing what?
So from a recruiting standpoint, kind of the process I shared is that will not be funded through their employee resource group. So that's just through the conversations and engagement. That's just time. Then the recruiting, we have budgets through the talent acquisition group specifically for veteran recruiting. So just like we do at other D&I type events, then it's all about money management and how many conferences, and they look at success rates and things like that. So there's other discussions about, like we have everywhere,
about financial supporting and budgeting year over year. And so that's formally funded. And now that is typically around the event. And then when we deal with travel, I'll pay for it in my group. Or, there's several of us that contribute like I do, and we'll just fund the travel as part of that hiring requisition, because we have to have real openings. So there's travel dollars associated within our budget just for hiring in general, and we'll fund that piece when I talk about flying them in and taking them out for dinner. We'll do that within our immediate budget tied to the requisition they're flying in for. Did I cover all the areas you're asking?
Okay, thank you, Greg. That's all the time questions we have, but Greg will be around, and he can take any other questions. So I'll have Audra take it from here.
Thank you. Doesn't fall back.
Yeah, I don't need a microphone. I'm insanely loud, so even if it doesn't work. All right, thanks, Greg. All right, next on the agenda is a networking activity with the goal of helping you all meet some new fantastic people here this afternoon. For those of you who are joining us on the live feed, we will reconvene at 4:45. And so for those of you that are here with us in person, we are really excited to have Leah Pitzenberger, the Vice President of Human Resources for the Minnesota Wild, to facilitate the activity. And Leah will be joined by other members of the Wild's People team. So we'll turn it over to Leah.
Oh, they're leaving, the online people. I'll do this. This is fine. Okay. Does this come out? Okay. Hi, everyone. Leah Pitzenberger. Like Audra said, I lead the people team. I've got a couple folks with me. I have Emily Sturwald. She's raising her hand. She's the director of HR here. And then we have Kara Sacchetti, who is our talent acquisition recruiter. So, Greg, where did you go? That was amazing. Super, super cool. We are really, we were taking notes back here, and we were just super excited to learn more from you. And I think that the engagement here was great. chit-chat and get to know each other tonight at the game, which I think will be really fun, and hopefully we can get a win for you. Thank you so much. Okay, that wraps up the networking portion of the day. All right.
There you go. All right, everyone, if you can join me in thanking Leah and everybody from the Minnesota Wild people team. Hopefully that was informative and you met some awesome people. Next on the schedule is an update from the Serving Our Troops organization. So please welcome from XL Energy and co-founder of Serving Our Troops, John Marshall.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to see a lot of folks out here in person. I realize I'm at the tail end of the agenda, so for the next 2 hours, I'm going to go into a deep, no, I apologize. No, really it is. It's a pleasure to be here. A lot of familiar faces in the room, and it is nice to get out and about. A true joy to talk a little bit about an effort called Serving Our Troops that was started back in 2004. Serving Our Troops is really a really community-based effort that started again back in 2004. It was a handful of community leaders on a Wednesday night at Mancini's, having a couple of cold grain belts, to be honest. And the discussion turned to how much deployment activity had been happening with the Minnesota National Guard. You know, this incredible citizen soldier base of women and men deploying just a couple years post 9/11. And the discussion started to say, well, what could we do as community leaders, as business leaders, as colleagues, friends, civic folks, to say thank you and represent some level of appreciation. And a waitress walked by at Mancini's with a big plate of 12-ounce top sirloins, and we said, let's send steaks to Iraq. That's exactly what we're going to do. We got excited, and the next day went and met with then Senator Norm Coleman, and Norm pulled in some key folks, and at the end of the day, they said, you guys are nuts. You're not doing that. Go home. You're not going to Iraq. It's way too hot of a zone, but I appreciate the sentiments. We kept conversations going, and that emerged and evolved into a different idea, and that was a concentration of women and men that had been deployed to Kosovo in 2004 at Camp Monteith and Bonsteel. And that was kind of the genesis of an effort called Serving Our Troops. That very first project that was completed back in 2004 was actually held in 2 locations in real time. One was right here at the floor of the XL Energy Center, in partnership with many, many restaurants in that very first year who all participated, who all donated many, many servings of food for kind of a large, good old smorgasbord for family members of deployed troops from the National Guard who were over at Kosovo. At the same time, a group was deployed of citizens here, along with an Irish band, and restaurateurs to head over to Kosovo. Along with a whole bunch of steaks that were the exact same cut of the 12-ounce Mancini cut. And the whole mission was to bring dinner, and it's really a simple thing, dinner with the family, make that connection. Thanks to some fabulous and talented folks here at the XL Energy Center, and some wonderful folks at Hubbard who were able to procure a satellite truck out of Greece because the Olympics had just shut down. And again, this is 2004, pre-Skype, FaceTime, pre any of that, flat screen TVs, because I remember we had the tube TVs hooked up. We had that first project in 2004 and ended up serving steaks to a couple of thousand soldiers overseas in real time with their family members back home, and it was a shared meal. The idea was in concept one of goodwill and fun and joy, and it really turned out to be something that we didn't expect, which is extremely emotional and very, very impactful. You know, that sense of longingness is such a human shared condition that we all have, and we realized that after that first project there was going to be a continued need. And after partnering with the Minnesota Military Family Foundation for that first project, we created the St. Paul Service Foundation and began a quest to launch a handful of additional projects in the coming years. We have done 15 projects to date, and they have been a combination of deployment ceremonies and deployment celebrations where we bring all of the families together with the deploying soldiers for the Minnesota National Guard at various locations. Very often, they're handled and celebrated right here in St. Paul for the deployment ceremony. Sometimes there's a concentration of soldiers that have deployed out of an area like Rochester and the Albert Lee area, so we'll go to a venue down there, partner with those restaurants, and have expanded our reach of restaurant partners. And then about halfway down from a deployment, we will work very, very closely with the military and specifically the Minnesota National Guard, and again, send a group downrange and do that video link and do that shared meal with the soldiers in their deployed area, whether it's Kosovo or Iraq or Kuwait, and then do a video link back here with their family members. And each and every time, it really is just this emotional journey. It is an entirely volunteer effort. There's no paid staff here. Serving our troops remains a relatively unstructured entity. It's much more of an effort that's really comprised of business leaders and citizens, and primarily St. Paul, but it definitely is a message from across the state of Minnesota. And it is done very, very closely, like I said, in partnership with the Minnesota National Guard. Additionally, we have a number of different restaurant partners that I'll talk about in a minute, but I could show a short video here just to kind of frame up a little bit of an experience. This is our last overseas project a couple years ago, pre-COVID, when we actually served our 100,000th steak. We're up to about 110,000 now, but this is a really special journey for us over at Camp Arifjan in Kuwait to send that message of thanks and support. So we can go ahead and roll that video.
John, it is St. Paul to Kuwait. We are serving our troops this weekend, and one of the people who came all the way over here with us, former Minnesota Viking great, Steve Hutchinson's in the house. Hi, Steve.
What's up? How we doing?
I'm really good. Can you believe all these people came out? I thought they thought this was a different radio show. I couldn't believe they all came out to listen to us.
Well, it's standing room only because it's 120 degrees
outside,
so it's
air conditioned.
Is
that why you guys are here? Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, we could be playing Pictionary. I think they'd still be in here.
I think you're probably right. Having a great time with the 34th Infantry Division Red Bulls, and I actually have some soldiers who are sitting here on the couch with me. Throughout the morning, we're going to be talking to some soldiers, get to know them a little bit. Hey, can I hear a little noise out here?
We have about 46 volunteers here. We have great major sponsors.
Delta Airlines,
Minnesota Viking,
XL Energy, Thompson Riders,
the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Minnesota Lynx.
Disabled American Veterans of Minnesota.
PMA Financial. We have incredible restaurants, institutions from across St. Paul and Minnesota, the Colossal Cafe, Skinner's Pub, O'Gara's, of course Mancini's, the Groveland Tap, the Highland Grill, the Nook, Shamrocks, and so many others that are here, along with our labor friends.
Sprinkler Fitters Local 417.
St. Paul Building Construction Trades Council.
St. Paul Plumbers Union Local 34.
Laborers Union Local 563.
And businesses and individuals from across the metro area that are here to serve our soldiers and their families.
Gave you the wrong group.
We've got one thing for you. So you are the proud recipient of the 100,000
I stuck with my girlfriend, our son, Bentley, and her family, so her parents, sister, and her sister's boyfriend. So I miss the farm, but I'm here, gotta do my work until I get home and work on the farm again.
In Minnesota is because of how people come together to say thank you.
So that video hopefully gives you a little bit of a sense of kind of the vibe and the passion behind serving our troops. Pat Harris was speaking quite a bit in that video. Pat Harris really was the original founder of Serving Our Troops, continues to keep the group together here. And really it is comprised of many, many partners. Serving Our Troops is but one of the many fantastic organizations across the state of Minnesota that step up each and every day to recognize and support the soldiers of the Minnesota National Guard, all the men and women in uniform, as well as their family members. So we do our small part. Ours is a bit unique. It focuses on food and restaurants and bringing families together. We've got some fantastic restaurant partners here. There are other partners that are many blue ribbon, yellow ribbon organizations, both in terms of restaurants, in terms of cities and counties and organizations, companies, a lot of emerging yellow ribbon partners as well. You see the labor organization, they're getting very, very actively involved. You know, frankly, the men and women that serve our country are fantastic recruiting opportunities for employment. So that's one of the reasons Excel is heavily involved. It's a little bit selfish, but fantastic workforce to partner with the National Guard. Again, the reason Serving Our Troops functions is primarily threefold. I'll just make sure I'm tracking my slides. Forgive me here. Well, the mission of Serving Our Troops is threefold. First, it is a message back to our soldiers and families that we care, that we're paying attention, that we're fully engaged. Second, is it a fantastic meal that everyone can share? We all enjoy breaking bread and having that experience and making those memories. It's very important. And third, we really try to leverage media. The projects that we do are kind of unique and they draw a bit of attention, and that's important for the National Guard. I think in our daily lives, each and every one of us, maybe not so much this room, but a lot of folks go about their daily lives and forget that there are many, many women and men that are deployed overseas, certainly many National Guard members. So the opportunity of these projects to showcase some of that service is really important and central to our mission. So in a nutshell, that is Serving Our Troops. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. I do want to thank everybody in the room who has helped. There are many, again, familiar faces in this room that have been part of these projects. We don't currently have one mid-flight right now. We work closely with the National Guard, as I said, and given the Delta variant and other restrictions, we're trying to be mindful and prudent of safety. So no current projects. ServingOurTroops.com is the website. It talks about some of our past projects and certainly showcases opportunities to donate. All the dollars that we raised go to two things: meat purchase and meat shipment. That's it. All the rest of the travel and everything is everyone paying out of pocket and saying, let's go. And it's actually pretty hilarious to see Johnny Mancini overseas when he's away from St. Paul. It's the behavior is interesting. So again, thank you all for your time this morning and the opportunity to talk a little bit about Serving Our Troops. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you for that. I'm officially craving steak. Yeah, I figured I probably wasn't alone in that. All right, finally, we are going to wrap things up with a presentation from the Military Resource Overview Strategic Team. So please welcome Annette Kuyper, Director of Military Outreach of the Minnesota Department of Military Affairs, Rachel Johnson, Yellow Ribbon Regional Outreach Coordinator from the Department of Military Affairs, and Tiffany Kowaleski, State Coordinator for the Building Healthy Military Communities. Ladies?
Thank you. I just want to let everybody know that Audra Martin gave of her time to help us out today, and can we just give her a great hand? She's doing a great job. I really appreciate that. You heard Dave Boden mention about our recent state active duty for the civil unrest that the Minnesota National Guard helped within the city of Minneapolis. We had about 4,000 of our service members who were activated during that time. And many of you answered the call for help for their morale stations where we were able to provide wish list items, everything from Gatorade to beef jerky to fruit snacks to we even had requests for certain gluten-free food for some of our soldiers. And every time we put the call out, our Yellow Ribbon community and company networks came to our rescue. Well, in the process of working with all of these units, I met two of our mayor cell leaders, Captain Emily Hero, who is a senior tax accountant for global custody of U.S. Bank, which I didn't know she works for U.S. Bank, one of our Yellow Ribbon companies, yay. And Captain Justin Ullerich, who's a claims professional for travelers, who will become a Yellow Ribbon company on December 14th. We're really excited for them. I was so impressed with those two that I asked our public affairs team to put together a quick little short video about that experience, not only of the two captains that led these efforts, but of the hotel staff that they worked with. And we were able to combine it with a message from our Adjutant General who couldn't also be here today. So we're going to show that quick video before Tiffany and Rachel and I come up.
I'm a logistics officer with the Minnesota National Guard, and that means that I lead teams to do logistical operations such as moving equipment and personnel all across the state.
So on any sort of military base or installation, there's something called a mayor cell. What the mayor cell does is it's a dedicated staff of people who ensure that there is essential life support on that base, so that there's shelter to stay in, that there are bathroom facilities, that there is water, running water, potable water, that there is places to eat, adequate food supply, and things like that.
We had a team, or I had a team of 18 soldiers. We were in charge of 4 hotels in the Bloomington area. We were in charge of providing enough beds and foods for 2,800 soldiers, which was the majority of the contingent activated for Operation Safety Net.
My mission was to run the mayor cell staff. We had 10 people spread across 3 hotels. And overall, we housed around 1,000 soldiers between the 3 hotels.
During the state active duty of April of this year, I was a part of the Sheridan Bloomington team. Specifically, I was the convention services manager. And what that is, in layman's terms, is I took care of all of the troops' meals and the guest rooms that they needed here at the hotel, and I was the singular point person for everything that the mayor's cell needed executed.
So meeting the criteria for the mission really involves clear communication up and down the chain of command. From the Department of Army Logistics office to our regional support group, which is our brigade echelon, ensuring that our soldiers and their families and their employers all understand what's going on and give them as much information as possible so that the impact is minimal to the families and the employers of the soldiers.
I was the convention service manager for their group. So I was the liaison from our meetings, kind of with the leadership every single day, to relaying that information to my team. So anything logistically from rooms to when they arrived, we were lucky enough to house 1,000 of them. So I think we were one of the largest groups to house them. So they sold out our hotel. So getting them in their rooms, the food and beverage, you know, we fed them 3 times a day. So 3,000 meals every single day.
We also implemented daily meetings, sync meetings, where the hotel staff would be present, my staff would be present, and then key leaders from all of the people who are staying at the hotels, the soldiers.
A lot of times when you have a mission, you get on a tunnel vision and you kind of just focus on that. And that was never the case with them. It was always open communication and come up with the best solution possible.
At the same time, we were attempting to coordinate options for a triage hospital in our hotel parking lot. We were experiencing a potential security threat and collaborating on how we would communicate but also execute more security in the hotel, not only around the soldiers but the civilians on the property as well.
I needed to think about security for the first time in a stateside mission. So I worked with the hotel staff on what their security looked like.
I was really struck by how organized the operation was, how the skills of that communication and decisiveness come into play to really accomplish all those intermixing priorities of that particular day.
One of the biggest lessons I learned was to just remain flexible and to make decisions within a realm of uncertainty. Sometimes you just have to make a call with minimal information and go from there.
It was always changing. They made that very clear from day one. You know, they like to change a lot. I learned that quickly. But they were always on the same page. There was never, you know, arguments of anything. It was just, we have a mission, we know what we have to accomplish, let's relay it to the team, and let's come up with the best solution for everyone, every party involved.
My team, my staff did fabulously. I put several of them in for awards that they can get in the military because they came up with great ideas. They had a lot of ingenuity, they overcame a lot of hurdles, and they did really great.
What was unique about this experience, though, is I felt that we were really in a relationship together through this mission, collaborating on what the needs were of the soldiers, but also the needs of our hotel in order to service them and our civilian guests.
I think our mission was very successful, and I gauged that by how we're able to maintain good relationships with our civilian staff, how satisfied the commanders were who were in charge of the units that we were taking care of. And it seemed to be, you know, the overall mission was successful in that we were allowed to have people exercise their First Amendment rights and protect personnel and property.
Being a leader here at our hotel, we do a lot of hiring. So if any of our Minnesota National Guard members were to walk through the door, without a doubt, I would find the best fit here for them. That old saying, you know, they would give the shirt off their back, was truly represented in, you know, I think we had them about a month and a half. You know, they were willing to step in. We had a gentleman here right away, and he's like, you know, Eric, I'm going on 20 plus hours and no sleep. And your heart breaks for those people, but you know that they're doing the best that they can. And at the end of the day, he was like, what can I do for you? And I'm like, no. What can I do for you? You know, you go get some sleep, but that just goes to show what kind of people they are.
I would be very enthusiastic to hire any National Guard member. Beyond the job training that they receive, beyond the military aspect of their operation, there are so many business qualities and talents that they experience on those missions, from communication to adaptability to creative thinking, really a lot of interpersonal skills that take place. You wouldn't believe it in a military operation, but I did witness a lot of managing up, in fact, and ability to take into consideration different players in an organization and how they can all collaborate and work together, both inside the organization and with their partners, such as our hotel.
Good day. I'm Major General Sean Mankey, and I'm humbled and honored to be the Adjutant General of the Minnesota National Guard. The Minnesota National Guard has a strong reputation for being always ready, always there. Whether performing domestic or overseas operations, our service members could not sustain high performance levels without the support of their communities and employers. As a Yellow Ribbon Company, your commitment to supporting military employees and their family members is crucial in enabling them to focus on the mission and perform at the highest level. Captain Hero and Captain Audra are just two examples of the caliber of leaders that can bring professional expertise and capabilities that can benefit your organization as well. People are our most valuable resource and are one of the 3 Minnesota National Guard organizational pillars. The Minnesota National Guard is a part-time job for more than 10,000 of our members. Our service members and their families depend on the support from Minnesota employers and communities to accomplish our state and federal missions. Partnerships are a second organizational pillar, and without a doubt, you continue to be an extraordinary partner to Minnesota's military. These partnerships further expand the Beyond the Yellow Ribbon community networks and build and support the military support resources that sustain service members and their families when they experience challenges. Also, these partnerships allow the Minnesota National Guard to connect with your diversity, equity, and inclusion groups and ensure best practices in advancing awareness and building trust. I want you to know how valuable we view these partnerships and your dedication to all service members, both current and past. Thank you for reaching the highest standards of becoming a Yellow Ribbon company. We look forward to working with you long into the future.
Okay, just wanted to capture that in a message from our Adjutant General. When the Minnesota National Guard started the Beyond the Yellow Ribbon program in 2008, the original concept was to enable communities, counties, and companies to synchronize efforts within the state to fill the gaps in resources and support. Now, when we first started, it was really just to support those in the deployment cycle, but we soon realized that this worked within our companies, within our communities, that we support all services, all branches, all veterans of any age or era, and all military families. So today we're very excited to introduce our newly formed strategic outreach team within the state of Minnesota. We're just continuing that effort to ensure that we're combining efforts and that we're all working together as a team. So earlier this year, the Adjutant General approved the combination of our strategic outreach team with Rachel Johnson as our Yellow Ribbon Regional Outreach Coordinator and with Tiffany Kowaleski with Building Healthy Military Communities State Coordinator and myself, the Director of Military Outreach. We also were approved to add on 2 additional resources that will join our team hopefully soon, and we're going to need your help in finding the best candidates for those positions. Those will be state employee positions. Wanted to show you today a little bit about our structure, and this might be hard to read, but in your packet, in your folder, you have a little layout of that. And we wanted the opportunity to kind of show you how we're all working together, because part of this working together includes you, all of you from our Yellow Ribbon companies. Those of you who've had a call from me recently, as I've been going through all 82 Yellow Ribbon companies, know that we are reconnecting, hopefully in a post-COVID world, kind of reconnecting you to your local Yellow Ribbon community networks, to your local family readiness support assistance within the areas that you serve, and to your county veteran service officers. So as well as our DEED veteran employment reps. We're wanting to make sure that there's synchronization of effort within our state to make sure that our companies are working with our communities and with all of our efforts for employment, suicide prevention, and just supporting our family members. So we're each going to kind of piece this category out as we go. But you'll kind of see how it all kind of comes together by the end of this presentation. Now, Rachel works predominantly with the Yellow Ribbon communities. I work with the Yellow Ribbon companies. But 5 years ago, we were fortunate to be one of several states that received a Building Healthy Military Communities State Coordinator. And Tiffany Kowaleski joined our team, and she'll be talking about her mission no, we have our mission right here. So as you can see, our missions are very similar. So it made sense to really join our team, for the 3 of us to join as a strategic outreach team within the Minnesota Department of Military Affairs. So even though the 3 of us work directly with the Adjutant General and the leadership team within the Minnesota National Guard. We are purple for all service branches. We just sit in with the National Guard. Okay, so let's have Rachel talk a little bit about the community program.
All right. Hi, everyone. I know I've had a pleasure to meet a lot of you over the last, about 2 years. And so it's really great to see faces and meet you in person and all that good stuff. Thank you, Hiway. You guys have done a wonderful job today. And the Minnesota Wild, I'm excited to go and watch the game tonight. So we'll make this short and sweet. Some of the things I really wanted to highlight today is our annual statewide JCF, Joining Community Forces. That will be coming up in the spring of 2022. We haven't had a date set yet as we're waiting on presenters. So please watch your emails as we send out save the dates. Hopefully, I'm hoping around the holiday season, maybe shortly thereafter. Another thing that I wanted to highlight is our volunteer hours. On average, in a year, we do 120,000, and honestly, it's probably way more than that, especially after listening to Dave this morning and all the countless hours they put in as just one network. And we're looking at 81 active networks throughout the state, and so we're averaging about $3.2 million just in volunteer hours. That does not include the financial piece that all of our networks provide throughout our communities. Another area that we changed up was our regions. Being right now the only coordinator in the state, it's really hard to manage an entire state and having 82 of those networks out there, so we divided it up into regions. And so we have 10 active regions throughout the state of Minnesota, and within those regions, we paired up our Beyond the Yellow Ribbon community networks with our Soldier and Family Readiness Specialists, which I know there was a couple here today, and then also with our county veteran service officers, as we wanted them to be our first point of contact when we're working with them. And so we've been bringing those people together, and organically, you're going to see over the next few years that those network numbers might go down. It's not that they're going away. We're just organically merging together so we can do more with less. Meaning that, you know, a lot of our chairs are starting to truly retire out because we have so many chairs that are already retired that they're actually like, hey, I'm actually going to go live down in Arizona or Florida and truly retire. And so we're going to start seeing a lot of our networks coming together, which is great because we want to see that, and we want to see them to be successful. And then that's where you guys come in, is that we really want to start partnering with you within our communities to hopefully be able to work better too in our community setting, as Dave and Andy mentioned earlier. We did remove 13 networks, but we added 3. And when I say remove, just like I said before, organically they started coming together, and so we are servicing them. It just looks a little different than what it did before. Our top 4 areas that we are really focusing on over the next year here is financial support resources, which I know a lot of you have heard about our holiday meal boxes that we've partnered with Building Healthy Military Communities and Meals from the Heart. And as of today, we just polled to see how many people have registered. We have 407 individuals / families that have registered for these boxes. The majority of them have registered for both Thanksgiving and Christmas, so we have approximately 814 meals so far, and it's like, what, October 6th? So they have until November 8th, so we still have a whole month to go. We are going to be doing a huge push for financial support for that, because on our end, we're looking at just with those 800 boxes, we're looking close to $20,000. And we are about 8,000 is what we've raised so far. We are looking at grants. We're looking at our community networks and our company networks. And so we'll be putting a huge push out on that because we know that's a need. Access to food is a huge need that we've seen over COVID. I know we've sent out reports through the Washington Post nationally on how that looks like. So if you want more information, please let me know, because we want to make sure that we're providing services in the right place at the right time to our soldiers and their families. And then on top of that too, I want to let everybody know that this includes all of our military. That includes our National Guard, our Reserve, our Air Wings, and our active military within the state of Minnesota. Household property resources, we're really going to be working with our networks to make sure that we have a volunteer list in regards to when we call upon them. If we are in need of somebody to do lawn maintenance, or snow is right around the corner. I hate to say that, but it is. And so we want to make sure that when we call upon people that we have those. I know we've had a lot going on right now too with plumbing and electric and roofing, etc. So we want to make sure that when we call upon you guys that you have vetted the people too that you're referring. We're working with the physical and behavioral health resources, and so we've really partnered with the VA with their suicide prevention coalitions, and we're really wanting to make sure that we get people within those coalitions throughout the state so we can do a better job on servicing not just our soldiers but their families and also our community members so they understand what our service members are going through. Lastly is our community partnerships and resources. And so making sure that we really have a good list of who are our partners and how do we get them connected to you, and that we're doing our job too by vetting those resources within the communities that we work on. Lastly, I had to make a couple notes here because this is a lot of information. We will be sending out our most updated point of contact list. And then I also wanted to make a quick mention in regards to the newest communities that we've had come in. Northern Dakota County was just proclaimed in August. Their action plan was approved about a year and a half ago prior to COVID. COVID happened, and so they weren't able to get proclaimed until August. So we're really excited to have them on board. They're right next to you guys in St. Paul, so I'm excited to have them. Next up was Worthington. Worthington just got proclaimed at their King Turkey Days, which was really fun to see. And then our next one coming up is Hennepin County, and we're super to have them come on board as well. Coming up in 2022, we have some of our networks that are looking at becoming counties, and so as they start to progress out, we'll make sure to share that great news with you. Thank you.
I'll stand a little closer together, ladies. We're on the same team. It's like way over there. Like they're way over there. So just a couple things quick, because I'm preaching to the choir here, is really just our company process of our companies. We are so excited that we're up to 82 yellow ribbon companies. We're working with about 14 more. Some of you are here today that are working on your action plan. Thank you so much. We're always adding more yellow ribbon companies as well. We kind of estimated volunteer hours. Again, I agree with Rachel, it might be a little low for all the things that you all do when we call to ask for help, and we really, really appreciate that. And of our 82 yellow ribbon companies, 13 of them did not have the requirement to become a yellow ribbon company to have a deferential pay policy. So we feel like we've moved the needle a little bit to ensure that our service members don't have a reduction in pay. So that's a big win for our yellow ribbon company program. So we just want to say again, thank you all for all the support that you give. I want to reiterate what Rachel was saying. We've seen great success, just like Hiway Credit Union has, with when we engage all of you with our community networks. You help provide support to our leaders. You help provide some structure to the Yellow Ribbon community networks, and we really appreciate that. And we're going to be helping making those matches into the future.
I'm really excited to go to the game tonight, even if it is preseason. My husband said he's not going to go. I said, that's rude. I'm Tiffany Kovaleski. I'm the state coordinator for Building Healthy Military Communities, or BHMC. I am a contractor with Arctic Slope Regional Corporation, and I'm housed underneath the Minnesota National Guard. However, I cover across all branches of service, and my main focus is to find macro-level strategic initiatives to help our geographically dispersed service members and their families. We do this by partnering with our community key partners, and that includes all of you. That includes your congressional delegates, that includes your companies, communities, Department of Health, the list goes on and on and on and on. So you won't really see my name out there too much. I sit on different tables and I put a military lens on specific gaps and needs within the community. And then once we figure out what those are, then I find a match. I'm like this glorified matchmaker, walking Rolodex in a way. And I partner you up, and then I exit through the gift shop. So that is what building healthy military communities is in my form. We conducted something called a rapid needs assessment back in 2017, and we interviewed all kinds of key partners to include military leadership, spouses, children, you name it, all key partners. And we came back with a synthesized data, and I want to say that the validity of this procedure was on point. And we came back with 3 different lines of effort. LOEs, that's a military acronym. As a civilian, I've had to learn a lot of these acronyms. So the 3 LOEs for the state of Minnesota that we're currently working on right now, and they haven't changed for the record over the last 5 years because they keep popping up, is increasing your physical, mental, and spiritual health for our service members and their families. Our second line of effort is childcare, looking at a social economic crisis. I've been remiss to say that everything's looking at the retention, resiliency, recruitment, readiness of the force. And so all of these are partnered up with increasing all of that. So when you're looking at childcare, we're looking at the retention of the force here. If our military parents can't find affordable, credible, reliable childcare, that's an issue. So you might see something coming out from BHMC through the American Red Cross asking if you have military youth to send them to the camp. And then we might be asking for a grant to help support those kids that can then in turn help provide childcare for our service members that are going to drill, that are needing off hours, that are needing help just in general. The third line of effort is community engagement, which is why I'm a part of the strategic outreach team. So aligning all of the different regions, like Rachel, I am woman of 1 across the state, and I am one of 6 nationally. So to say that we have to divide and conquer and rely on you and your resources and your networks is an understatement. So we're very grateful for your always continued partnership. But we're looking at the state and a regional level for different reasons, because what might pop up in Rochester might not be the same thing that pops up in Roseau County on the Canadian border. And so we really sit with our community partners in a very strategic and tactical way. And we listen, and that's how we were able to find food insecurity. Who knew that food insecurity was happening in Minnesota? Sure, we might know that there's some food deserts or swamps, but to see that 406 military families currently serving across all branches have signed up for a food budget stretcher box and turkeys for the holiday season is shocking. And that's something that we're here to say today, that this is a true need within the state of Minnesota. And if these are families that are working and are serving and they're still needing help for food, we have a lot of work to do ahead of us. This is a Strategic Outreach Team Collaborative. So today I was fortunate enough to be a part of a couple of the networking sessions. I too kind of cringe, but at the same time, once you get in it, it does feel good to learn about what's going on and to meet new people. So it's wonderful to see familiar faces, but it's also great to meet some new friends. So within that networking, I did the community networking circle at first. And some things that I heard was, if you have resources, I need them, I want them. And like Annette said, we have a really well-oiled machine here in the state of Minnesota. We have first points of contact, and we have lanes, and we have roles, and then we stay within them, and we've been able to do this battle drill. So there's always this first point of contact here in the state of Minnesota, and I feel really bad for my colleagues across the country because they don't have what we have here. And they're so tired of listening to all the wonderful best practices. Like, look at all these 80-something companies who do hiring and recruiting. I mean, my colleague in Mississippi is just going, what? So with the communities, there's this first point of contact, and we have them in all the branches of service. And I'm really sorry, but I'm going to have you stand up, and I'm going to introduce you because I think it's very important for them to understand who you are. I've now given you both visual eyes to tell you that I'm going to do this. Miss Ellen MD, would you please stand up? Miss MD had her first day as of yesterday. She is the Soldier Family Readiness Specialist for the Minnesota National Guard. She has a team of 10 specialists, something like that, 12, 8, 14 specialists across the entire state. If you need any help for your employees in any area of the state and they are currently in the National Guard, Ms. Ellen MD is the person that you want to network. She's not going to the game, so you better get her while she's here. Ms. Kelly Wilkinson, will you please stand up? Kelly is the Airman Family Readiness Program Manager, or a title something like that, within the Air Force Reserves. She just transferred over from the Air Guard. We have a wonderful person at the Air Guard as well. But if you have anyone that's currently serving in the Air Force Reserve, Ms. Kelly Wilkinson is going to the game, so she will be around for a little bit longer, and she should be a first point of contact that you should know very well. County Veteran Service Officers, there's 87 in the state of Minnesota with 87 counties. That is unheard of usually in other states. Get to know them. And then once you get to know all of your first points of contact, then we can popcorn up from all of the resources that are sprinkled along in this crowd right now and across the entire state of Minnesota. You have the company seminar. So now you've got your communities, you have all of your first points of contact, you have your company seminar where we're learning best practices. One of the areas that I sat in was recruiting. And it was, where do we find people to come in and work, especially in a rural community? Or how can we be getting more resources in a rural community? And here's the answer. Attend the annual statewide Joining Community Forces. That event is where all of the Beyond the Yellow Ribbon communities come and do exactly what you're doing now. We're wanting you to attend that and to network like you've never networked before and find that city, find that region, find whoever you're looking for and say, hey, would you be interested in hosting a recruiting event in Robbinsdale, Minnesota? And here you go, I'm gonna take my hat off of BHMC and I'm gonna put my BTYR volunteer hat on. And as the chair of that community, I'm gonna say, heck yeah, let's do it. Taking off my BTYR hat on, putting on my BHMC hat. I really thank you for listening to everything today. It's been very impactful for me to listen to you as companies and as key partners. I'm taking all of the information that I learned today and I'm going to take it away and I'm not going to sit on it. And between the three of us within the Strategic Outreach Team, we are going to be able to help you bring national, state, and local resources to your company. And I've taken enough of your time. Thank you.
Hi, I just forgot, I have one little alibi in your packet on your left-hand side. We do have a list of all of the regional gatherings and stuff, and then we also do have a QR code down there, so if you're not already connected, please just go there, fill out the form, we'll make sure we get you connected in. I did realize that when I copied and pasted that on the Metro, it's Al Ramos, and so I will fix that, and when we send out the slide deck, I'll make sure to get his contact info on there, and it's not in Bemidji, it's going to be virtually. So I apologize about that.
Thank you, Rachel. Okay, all three of us will be going to the game, so we can take any questions there. So we're going to bring Audra back up because we're going to do a prize drawing, I believe. Okay, thank you.
And Annette, I wanted to say thank you for having me, and Wayne and Dave. When Wayne reached out to me earlier this summer and asked if I was free to be here with you guys today, and when he told me it was a yellow ribbon event, I didn't even look at my calendar. I knew I would make sure I could be here because what you guys are doing is really incredible. So thank you guys for letting me be a small part of it today. And now the good stuff. I didn't get any bribes though, so this is all right. Yeah, it must be present. That is true. Okay. All right. Is it Nick Nassar?
No, it's not.
I was like, wait. Yeah. Sorry, my bad. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that does conclude the 2021 Yellow Ribbon Company's Fall Conference. Just want to say a very special thank you to the Minnesota Wild and Hiway Credit Union for sponsoring today's event. So big round of applause for them. One bit of housekeeping, if you guys can turn in your plastic name badges, that would be great, just so we can reuse them for future events. The next Yellow Ribbon Company Conference will be hosted by Great River Energy in Maple Grove on Friday, April 15th, 2022. So go ahead and mark your calendars now so you can all make sure that you are able to attend. And we do plan to offer the spring and fall Yellow Ribbon Company conferences both virtually and in person in the future. And so finally, for those of you attending the Wild and Blues game tonight, you can enter through gate 5, and please take advantage of the great networking opportunity and cheer on the Wild against the Blues. So again, thank you guys so much for being here. Hope you had a wonderful day. Have a great time at the game, and we look forward to seeing you on April 15th, 2022. Thanks.